Noon, the meeting of the Finance Committee for June 12th, 2025 is hereby called to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chairperson Ted Masiacos.
Present.
Vice Chair Carl Franco.
Here.
Alderman Dan Barreiro.
Here.
Alderman at Large Keith Larson.
Here.
Alderman Edward J. Bugg.
Here.
5 present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Alderman Bugg requests permission to participate remotely per Section 2-80 of the Code of Ordinances based on a reasonable anticipation of an extended illness. Is there a motion to authorize Alderman Bugg to participate remotely?
Second.
A motion by Alderman Franco, seconded by Alderman Barreiro. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries by voice vote. Clerk, can you please read the approval of the minutes?
Item 25-0470, approval of the minutes from the Finance Committee meeting held on May 29, 2025.
So moved. Second.
Are there any questions or comments on this item? No, hearing none. We have a motion by Alderman Franco, seconded by
Alderman Larson.
Alderman. Okay, I want to make sure. I was hearing voices there for a second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to offer public comment today?
We do not.
Okay. Clerk, can you please read the first item on the agenda?
Item 25-0488, an ordinance amending Article 2 of Chapter 48 of the City of Aurora Code of Ordinances entitled Municipal Utility Service, Water and Sewer Rates, and establishing rates for said services for the annual periods beginning July 1st, 2025 and July 1st, 2026.
Good afternoon, Jason Bauer with the Department of Public Works. If you recall, at the last Committee of the Whole, we had a pretty extensive presentation going over how the water rates are adjusted, why they're adjusted, and the time of year that we do that. But just as a quick recap, by ordinance, we adjust our rates July 1st of every year, and we typically come forward with 2 years of increments at one time. Normally, the increases are anywhere between 2 and 6.5%, and at the current costs, at the current rates, we would not generate enough revenue to cover the cost to supply the water. And the cost to supply the water is our operation, our maintenance, our staffing, water main replacements, lead service lines, everything we do that's related to the utility. The reason we come forward with these incremental increases, again, is we want to cover annually the cost to supply the water. And we don't want to get too far behind to get to a point where there's rate shock where we have to go with a significant increase. So looking at the deficit that we had, we were projecting about $2.8 million without any adjustment. So we looked at 4%, 5%, and 6% adjustments, and the only adjustment we had to get up to about 6% to get to the point where we broke even. This results in about an extra $3.30 a month for the standard user. And that increase will keep us in line with all of our neighboring communities. And that's the rate that we are recommending. There's, again, it helps us cover the cost of service, and we need to be prepared for lead service lines and to increase our annual water main replacement at some point in the future. So more than willing to take any additional questions that you might have, either from Kyle or anything that's come up since then. And happy to help.
Question.
Yeah.
So
Alderman Franco.
the rates are the rates. The math is the math. So I'm guessing, and I think I know the answer to this, the reason that we're at the higher end of the typical window, which you saw 2 to 6, so we're up there, is pretty much because of the lead service lines, which we weren't really addressing, 10 years ago. Because I look at that, they're like 3 and 4%. Now we're up to 6. So is that probably the key why it's out of the middle up to the higher end?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. Another reason is we did freeze rates during COVID, so we didn't so we did lose 1 year of increase. So compounding that forward, that definitely has led to it. But yeah, over the past 5 years, we've incrementally been raising the CIP. That's one of the big expenses. That's one of the maintenance elements here for our capital projects. Right. So that was $0 back in 2019, 2020, right. And then every year we've been adding about $1 million to that to get prepared for 2026 and 2027. Right. 2027 will be mandated to replace 3% of our system a year, 3% of the lead service lines a year, and that could potentially be even sooner. It could be at some point in 2026.
Right. And not asking for comparatives, but can we assume that other towns are kind of going through the same thing because they're going to have to replace lead service lines? So we're all in this together. It's just a matter of how we handle it.
Yeah, I mean, depending on the communities.
Sure.
I mean, there's some communities that are, 0 or close to 0, but the older communities that are our size are definitely in that same range.
Okay.
We, by the numbers and by the inventory that we've been doing, we probably have the second most in the state behind Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're number 1 by a far margin,
Right.
but then we would be right up there competing for number 2.
Sure.
So other towns of our size, yeah, and they're all struggling with the same decisions because there is no dedicated funding source for this right now outside of some of the funds that trickle down through the Fed, through the state revolving loan fund. So.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Alderman Barrow.
Chair, I have a couple questions. So one of my questions is relative to comparables. So people are looking at these fees and they know what they paid, what they're paying now, what they're going to pay. But how do we compare to other communities, especially those that are on Lake Michigan water, such as our big neighbor to the east?
During the cow presentation, we did try and break out a comparison of different communities, and we are, even with the increases, we're still favorable. The only one that's significantly lower is a neighboring community that actually supplements their water fund with their general fund. So we're actually lower, we're right in line with most of them, lower than quite a few.
And my other question is the when residents pay their water bill, there's a lot of other fees in there, and sometimes it's hard to understand what those fees are for.
Sure.
Are those all related to the water fund, or is there something in there for refuse or landscaping or landscape waste or something?
Yes, there's landscape waste in there that covers, that one is a bill that goes towards the Christmas tree pickup and brush pickup, things like that. We also have the long-term control fee that's assessed with the water bills. That's another one of our unfunded mandates that we're collecting money for. That goes to all of our sewer separation projects and, green infrastructure. A lot of the projects we bring through INT, the sewer separation projects, for instance, right now. This year, we'll be starting, I think last night at, I don't know, it was maybe 2 months ago, Kurt Muth came through for a $3 million sewer separation project down towards the south end of it was right near Hazel and Broadway. So we're collecting that money incrementally to do those sewer separation projects, and that's what that fee is for. And then there's also a stormwater fee that gets collected as a part of the bills, and that is for general maintenance. We've got line items set aside for Mastodon Lake dredging. We use it for repair of the river wall through town, so that one is pretty minor as well, and that gets collected through the bills. And then there's an availability charge. And I guess the best way to explain that one is if nobody used water tomorrow, we still have people at the plant that are producing water. We still have to buy the chemicals. We still have to be ready to provide the water. So even if you never turn the faucet on, you still have the ability to turn it on, and it's there. So there's some of those costs that we've got to cover that are really not tied directly to usage.
The landscape waste, is there any way to put that on something else, something different? So if people are paying their water bill, they're also paying that, and all these different fees compounds, and people are starting to get a little tired of these increases.
Yeah, I guess that'd be a good question for finance, but then you have to think on their end of things from the office side. Now we're producing that many more bills, we're sending that many more mailers out, and now we're going to incur more costs, so that fee is going to go up to cover that additional burden.
Yeah, Chris Minnick, Chief Financial Officer. I don't know that I can do a better job explaining than Jason just did, but yeah, we would incur another set of costs, obviously, if we went and issued a separate bill. What we might be able to do is take a look at and think about ways that maybe we could break it apart a little bit, make it a little more of a distinctive presentation upon the billings sheet that the individuals get, so it maybe becomes a little bit clearer. But from a practical standpoint, removing it and having it be an additional billing run, it is not really a good and efficient way to go about it.
Are any of these have the potential to disappear? For example, The storm, the flooding, you know, that we seem to have conquered the flooding issues, and also the sewer separation. How much more do we have to do with that?
So we actually just went through the process of updating our permit with the EPA in terms of the long-term control plan, and we do think that, yes, at some point that fee is going to either be significantly reduced or could potentially go away. There's a lot of expenses that we were anticipating that we would need to make, and based on all of the sewer separation we've done and the new modeling we've done and the reduction in our overflows, the sewer separation's been a lot more effective than the models at the time when the original plan were developed were predicting. So per the new update, yeah, there's a significant reduction in what we need to do. We do still have items that need to be done. That permit expires in 2030. And then at that point in time, we'd be able to investigate if we're, you know, is there more separation that needs to be done? Because there's two components to the sewer separation. Number one, and the main reason for the permit, is the reduction of the overflows into the Fox River, but we do have secondary benefits from sewer separations, such as the reduction of sewer backups. So there could still be some desire and need to do sewer separation. Now, whether that would have to be a long-term control plan or whether that's just a completely separate CIP with a different source of funding is something that could definitely be discussed. But until 2030, based on the projections that we're looking at, yeah, we'd probably be looking at that around that time frame.
Okay, it's just good to kind of get a picture of the overall bill when you get it. People see that. People see it keeps going up, and some of the fees don't seem to come off the bill. So.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the sewer and the long-term control plan fees are some of the smaller ones on there. And again, the availability is not going up. We're only tying this increase to usage. So for those who are using less water, they'll see even less of an impact because, again, that availability fee is not, we're not suggesting to adjust that with this.
The landscape one, I don't know if we can change the verbiage because some people don't understand what that is. Maybe the description.
Yeah, we
on
can,
it.
we can certainly take a look at that and maybe make it a little clearer that that's for recycling and landscaping and those kinds of disposal fees that are more appropriately tied to refuse service than necessarily water and sewer service.
All right, thank you.
May I make a recommendation and tell me if it's too far off? We have a few also new aldermen in the city council, and this topic was brought up at the last meeting when you made the preliminary presentation. Is there an ability to just take that water bill and say, okay, these are the line items, and this is what's associated to each line item?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we could do that.
So so the council members know exactly what's associated to, what's tied into each line item, like it was brought up during the public comment section as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do that, and we can upload that as an exhibit to this agenda item before.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That way you don't have to always continuously repeat yourself as well.
That's fine, sure. That's easy enough
Help
to do.
educations too, you know, nothing doctoral thesis level.
We'll keep it
So,
simple.
yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, the KISS method. I love it. All right. Any other questions, Mr. Larson?
Mr. Chairman?
1 second, Ed. We're going to have Alderman Larson first.
Yeah, just one quick question regarding the other fees. So the basic availability fee is the biggest one. Historically, it looks like the rates go up a bit each year. Do these other fees go up typically? Is that a less common thing?
If so, it's usually pretty incremental. I think this year we're proposing maybe 10, 15 cents to one of them, not the long-term control plan, but the stormwater. So it goes up typically in that same general percentage, but it's such a small number.
Yeah. And the availability charge, it has changed in the past, but I don't think it's changed recently.
No, not in the last two
No, it's
cycles.
been held pretty consistent at that level over the last several years.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Alderman Bug.
Yes, thank you. First of all, Chairman, are you able to see when I raise my hand, or is that just in the control room?
I didn't even notice you raised your hand. I'm sorry about that, even though I have you right in front of me.
Oh, that's okay.
My
I mean,
apologies.
it's electronic,
Right.
so I don't know if you can see it.
No, I
Okay.
cannot see your hand, no, if you're asking electronically, no.
Okay, okay. The old Zoom raise the hand. So, yeah, I sent in a couple questions. I'm going to thank Mr. Bauer and the whole team. To comment further on Alderman Franco, I believe the department and the aldermen have done a good job over the last 6 years. And I think when we took a look at this at committee of the whole, we saw some of those numbers, 6% over the last couple of years, 6+ this year. But over the last 6 years, the average was 4.24. So I went back and did all the math. And of course, that's the impact from 0 during COVID 2020 and a smaller number in 2021 or thereabout. So 4.24 over the last 6 years. And then this year, because of the extra, lead replacement, we need to make an additional jump. So it's definitely understandable. The one thing I wanted to look at, I talked a little bit, and I asked a question in committee of the whole about our non-residential rates. And of course, they're going up incrementally, as are those who have the senior exemption. Seniors get an exemption. Their rates don't go up as much on things or on their water bill each time, rightfully so. So really what I wanted to look at is a comparison is if we raised the non-residential rate, both on commercial and residences, incrementally more, and kept the senior rate so they would not have an increase. And their increase is small, but any amount to a senior is exponentially larger. So that is really my question for Mr. Bauer and the team.
Sure. So I guess first to start off with, one of the questions you asked, and we were able to get that number for you just now. There are about just shy of 4,000 senior exemptions, and their bill, as you noted, is going to go up less. They are not going up $3.30 a month. They're going up less than $1 a month. So it's a pretty minor increase, and that's all tied to the same ordinance. There's a maximum discount that's applied. So, based on how much they use and whatever consumption they have, it's a discount that comes off. It's not really a different rate.
Okay. You say less than $1? I don't think that's what I saw in the.
Yeah, I thought that was in the presentation.
The chart indicated.
Oh, no, I saw the numbers. I don't think it was $1.
I think it was like 82 cents or something like
Yeah,
that.
it's
$10 a year.
$1.65 for every bi-monthly bill, which would break down to about 80 cents a month.
Okay, 80 cents a month. Okay.
Yes.
So.
About $10 a year, as Jason
$10 a
indicated.
Yeah, about $10 a year.
Yeah.
Okay. So $10 times 4,000 houses, we would need to find $40,000 so that our seniors wouldn't have that increase. Round numbers.
Right.
Correct, yes.
Okay. All right. I'm going to try and find $40,000 this.
Question.
Alderman Franco.
Alderman Bug, I gotta ask you a question because when you started this conversation, were you alluding to the fact that the seniors, even though they get a rate reduction and they're going up less percentage, that we may want to charge others more for them to have even a greater less than percentage? Or you're not tying those two together, are you? I didn't know if you were going
yeah.
there.
Yeah, I will look at, a number of different things, but one of them was the non-residential rate. So those are non-residents of the city of Aurora, commercial, and people who tie in their water into the city of Aurora. They have a rate.
Right, so just as point of clarification, just to make sure we're all understand. So what we have is listed as non-residential. Those are within the city. That's our commercial and industrial users. The non-residents, their rate is tied. So we do have, in terms of non-residents, say someone who lives in Aurora Township that's not incorporated but is hooked up to city water, their rate is tied to the residential user rate. So whatever we increase the residential user rate by, they pay that percentage more. I believe it's, right now, I think they pay twice. So when we're increasing the residents' rates by $330 a month, if the same user was not in the city, theirs is going up by twice that amount. So their rates are basically double ours, if that makes sense. But what's listed as, what's listed in here as non-residential is within the city. That's just not a residence. It's a strip mall. It's a warehouse,
Okay.
a manufacturing facility. So their rates are calculated differently.
Okay, right. No, yeah, I was speaking of, the true non-residential, those who, as you say, live in the township or a township, and hook into our water system.
Right.
Right, and of course, we set the rate that they pay. So.
Correct. Which is tied to the residential incorporated rate. So there's residential incorporated, and then there's residential non-incorporated. And that rate is tied directly back to whatever we set the rates with as a part of this ordinance
Right.
change.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I'll have more discussions later and see how the numbers work. We know it's about $40,000.
Correct.
And right now, the residents in our city who are getting squeezed, unfortunately, on everything are the seniors. So any relief we can give them, would be a testament, and they would appreciate it. So we'll do some homework.
So you're going to scour the budget and try to find nickels and dimes that equate to $40,000, Alderman Bug?
Well, we'll look at.
Which is not a problem. You're going to have to talk to Mr. Minnick, I'm sure. You know your way around. So if you're all through with that, I'd leave it up to you.
I guess
Try to
just one
find-
thing to point
Sure.
out there is historically, we do not use general fund to supplement the water. If we need to make an adjustment, it's usually sacrificing something in the capital portion of the water rates. We don't typically make transfers into the water rate. We like to make sure it's self-sufficient and run in a way that if there was no transfer to be made from the general fund, that it can be self-sufficient and cover the cost of service. So it would be,
Well, part of the-
what we would end up doing is either adjusting rate increases for others or reducing the CIP.
I think that's probably what you're trying to get at, ultimately.
Right,
try to figure out.
we would never look at the general fund for this.
Correct. Yeah, it was just a point of clarification that it's not looking at the budget to find other things. It's what would either need to be cut from the water rate or how the rates would be adjusted for others.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much. Okay.
Motion to approve.
All right, I have a motion from Alderman Franco to approve this resolution. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Dan Barrero. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, would you please read the next item on the agenda?
Item 24-0726, a resolution authorizing the execution of a joint funding agreement with the state of Illinois, the execution of a Phase 3 construction engineering services agreement with HR Green, Inc., in the not-to-exceed amount of $706,900 $956, and the appropriation of $2.1 million of Rebuild Illinois bond funds and/or MFT funds for the Sullivan Road reconstruction project.
Good afternoon, Alderman. I'm Alex Nugent with the Department of Public Works Engineering Division. Presenting here, this is for our Sullivan Road reconstruction project that goes from Edgelawn Drive to Golden Oaks Parkway, kind of in front of IMSA and such, reconstructing the roadway from a 2-lane to a 3-lane section. We've received design approval from IDOT. We've had phase 2 final engineering plans into IDOT since about late 2024. We are currently going through the right-of-way process, which has been dragging out a little bit. And I'll be talking later about a few of those parcels. But this is for the phase 3 construction engineering and construction funding. Normally we would bring this up a little bit closer to letting, but we are trying to use Rebuild Illinois bond funds for those. Those have an obligation deadline. Everything needs to be authorized and obligated by July 1st, 2025, so that and a few later projects on the agenda are being brought to you a little earlier than usual, just to make sure we get those funds obligated in time to use them.
Before we start discussion, could you just please briefly explain Rebuild Illinois bond funds and what that means for the resident or the city or both?
Yes, so the
Because it's going to be brought up in the next few resolutions as well.
Yes, so the Rebuild Illinois Bond Fund was established by State of Illinois Rebuild Capital Program. We received across 2020, 2021, and 2022 2 installments each year. They totaled a little over $13 million for the city. This is state money. It must go to a surface transportation project, so either roads or bridges that are bondable. So they have to last on average about 13 years. So like our citywide resurfacings, any of those are not considered eligible. It needs to be kind of our bigger construction and capital projects. We've been using them traditionally and typically thus far for our local match portion of our federal larger projects. So typically those 80-20 projects, we've been using them for our 20% match. The funds go into our MFT account, our motor fuel tax account, but they need to be accounted for and spent a little bit separately.
Is there debt service associated to it?
Not for the city, no.
Okay.
No, these
All
are all
right.
state general obligation bonds.
Okay, all right. Because in some of these resolutions, you talk about using MFT funds or Rebuild Illinois bond funds. So how does that relate? Because when I read through a resolution, at least one of them, it states we're going to use the bonds or, as much as we can, and then afterwards we go to MFT. So if you're talking that the bonds go into MFT, can you explain, if any, how that works?
Sure, so the bonds
And actually, Mr. Minnick might be able to help.
If you want to take a shot, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, the Rebuild Illinois bond funds actually refer to a bond issue that the state did several years ago. It was part of a budget initiative. I'm sorry, I don't remember the year, but the state actually issued bonds, and the state is liable for the repayment of those bonds. They then distributed the bond proceeds out to various municipalities and governmental entities so that they could improve or rebuild their infrastructure with that proceeds. It was a way to help jumpstart the investment in infrastructure that the state was making. So there are bonds that are outstanding. The state does collect revenues, and then the state is responsible for the debt service on those bonds. It's just, we refer to the program as the Rebuild Illinois bond. That's just how it was referred to.
Okay,
So.
I just want for clarity. There's been a lot of discussion
Yeah.
about bonds last week.
Correct,
I
correct,
want to make sure
no.
people don't think that they're going to, the residents aren't going to be taxed by the city for, any debt service on that.
No,
All right,
no.
appreciate that clarification.
you.
Thank you. All right. Any questions by the committee?
So moved.
Motion to
Second.
approve by Alderman Franco, second by Alderman Dan Barrero. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Clerk, please read the next item on the agenda.
Item 25-0199, a resolution authorizing the execution of the joint funding agreement for federally funded PE row with the state of Illinois for row authorizing the execution of the standard agreement provisions joint improvement projects on the state highway system, and the appropriation of Rebuild Illinois bond funds and/or MFT funds for Montgomery Road and Hill Avenue intersection improvement.
Alex Nugent again, Public Works Engineering. Yeah, so this one, kind of a similar situation. It's one of our larger projects. This one, the Montgomery and Hill intersection, which has been through design and has come to finance for some different things in the past. This time we're looking at right-of-way. This one is a little bit further behind compared to previous Sullivan Road project. This one we're looking to get now approval for spending of the Rebuild Illinois funds and our initial kind of upfront right-of-way acquisition documentation. So we're not looking to purchase parcels yet. This is just kind of the first step to, we still need to get approval from IDOT. Then we can begin the appraisal and negotiation process. Or excuse me, we can then begin the negotiation process once they approve our appraisals.
I believe there is a drawing, isn't there?
There should be. If there's not one attached, we can add one. Got a copy.
I've seen it in the past. I've seen a drawing, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago with director, the previous director. So maybe we can get just, basic understanding for the rest of the committee, and also, I should say, the rest of the council about what we're talking about there. I know it's a phased project. Ken Schroth actually shared it with me maybe 2 years back, because we received a federal grant for that too, right?
Yeah, we have some federal
Funding.
money and we got some representative money as well.
Okay, fantastic. All right. Okay, because I didn't see a drawing on here, or just a simple map to explain exactly what we're trying to achieve there.
Yeah, so the intersection of Montgomery and Hill has historically faced a lot of congestion issues. I mean, personally driven through can speak to that. We're looking with this project, we've secured, I believe, a little over $6 million of CMAQ and representative funding. So that's federal funding that's at an 80-20 split to improve that intersection. To do so, it would be adding a through lane along Hill Avenue and some turn lane, along with some turn lanes and some turn lanes along Montgomery Avenue, or Montgomery Road, excuse me. It would connect Montgomery Road to the east. There's a 3-lane section about 1,200 feet east of the intersection that it would tie into nicely. And then it'll just kind of taper back on the north, south, and west legs to a natural terminus to meet our minimum lengths or desirable lengths for turn lanes and through lanes as required by IDOT in our design studies.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Any questions by the committee or for the
Mr. Chairman?
Alderman Bug.
Yeah, the zoomed out map is page 8 of Exhibit A. But if we could get something closer, which actually shows the existing lanes and then what will be added, that would be good. There is like I said, a zoomed out map in the exhibit.
Yeah, that's a Google style map.
Right.
Talking
Really
about
zoomed out.
talking engineering drawing, so.
Yeah, we have some
just
drawings
give
that we
you-
can add
right.
before now.
That'd be fantastic, yeah. All right. Thank you for that clarification and update, Alderman Bug.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Franco, second by Alderman Larson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries 5-0. If you want to stay up there, if the committee will allow me to just keep going with some of these other ones that I believe are under your purview here today, correct?
Yes.
Unless you really need to sit down.
No,
For
no, that
keeping you
works
up
for
there
me.
too long. Clerk, can you fast forward to Resolution 25-0481?
A resolution authorizing the execution of real estate contracts to purchase properties in the amount of $50,800 and appropriating Rebuild Illinois bond funds and/or MFT funds for the Sullivan Road construction Edgelon to Golden Oaks project.
Alex Nugent again, Public Works Engineering. So this is tied once again to our Sullivan Road project. This is for the actual purchase of some right-of-way parcels. There are 9 parcels in total that we need to acquire right-of-way from. been going through the IDOT federal process. We have reached agreement with 4 of the property owners, and we're looking to get them paid out to keep everything moving.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Dan Barrero, second by Carl Franco. Any discussion? If there's none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. If we'd like to keep going with this, with this
One more for
momentum.
ya.
Item 25-0495, a resolution authorizing the appropriation of Rebuild Illinois bond funds and/or MFT funds for Phase 2 design engineering for New York Street Bridge project.
All right, so this one is for our New York Street Bridge reconstruction, kind of right through downtown. We're currently going through the Phase 1 preliminary engineering stage. Things have been dragging out through IDOT with that, just to get through the historical preservation component. There are federal funds involved in all phases of this project, so Phase 1 engineering, Phase 2 engineering, construction and construction engineering. As such, we need to wait until Phase 1 engineering is fully finished. We receive design approval, and then we can submit draft agreements into IDOT, and we have to wait for them to approve them before we can begin Phase 2 design engineering. So once again, we're coming with this one a little bit early, but just to make sure we stay ahead of our Rebuild Illinois Bond Fund deadline.
So it's approximately a 30-year-old bridge.
The
It says circa 1990, so I'm figuring it's around a 30-year-old bridge.
The original bridge structure is significantly older. 1990 was the last major renovation. We put a new deck on, but that's about, we've seen deterioration throughout there, and it's really kind of at the end of its useful life. We're looking to do something similar. The substructure elements will still remain, so it's just kind of the deck up. It'll be a whole new deck.
So would you say a bridge is typically, what, a lifespan of 30 to 35 years or 35 to 40 years?
For a new deck, you hope to get a little bit more out of it. Something like what we're proposing doing this, you hope to see about 50, but obviously, that's a long time, and depending on what happens, we can't guarantee that by any means.
Do we use too much salt, or what is it? I mean, too much rain?
It could be any number.
Where
Too
we're
much
seeing,
salt
but-
could have been issues when it was originally constructed.
So when we're trying to get ahead of it early, are we trying to get ahead of it early 10 to 15 years or 2 to 3 years?
I mean, not to say the bridge isn't going to fall down in 2 years or
Okay,
anything
good,
like that.
good. All right,
but,
excellent. All right.
We're kind of staying in line with where it would be, this is the right time to do this type of improvement before things get to a point where, if we leave the deck in this condition, okay, maybe it starts affecting the substructure then, and we're looking at a much more expensive repair 5, 10 years, 20 years down the road.
Okay, because when I came in, I remember we were in the tail end of fixing all our bridges in Aurora when I came in as an alderman. Seems like eons ago, about 10, 12 years ago. But we had a series of bridge repairs and replacements as well. So any questions by the committee?
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Franco. Oh,
One question.
Question.
Are any of the other bridges getting close to a time where they're going to need repairs to, or is it just New York Street for now?
Just New York Street for now. I think based on condition, our next major bridge that would potentially be an issue is Farnsworth over the BNSF tracks, but we're still a ways out on that.
Okay.
What is the estimated timetable, year?
We're hoping, again, a lot of it's in IDOT's court right now, but realistically, construction probably about 2027.
Okay, Alderman Bug, any questions?
Chairman,
He froze.
to follow up to what you said, Alderman Masakos, yeah, when we used to have a kind of a little joke with the alderman that we would do one bridge a year, whether we wanted to or not. So generally, overall, the city is way far ahead of other municipalities.
Okay, all right, so I have a motion by Alderman Franco. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Larson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Well, thank you so much, appreciate it. And for those that are patiently waiting for their turn in the line, we can keep going back up to that one there, Madam Clerk.
Item 25-0403, a resolution authorizing execution of a third amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding between the Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund, Inc. and the City of Aurora, expanding the FEC Expert Partner scope of work to include the Small Business Boost and to receive $90,000 grant upon full execution of this third amendment.
Good afternoon, Alderman and Committee Clerk. Tasha Moss, Program Manager for the Financial Empowerment Center. And the item before you just expands another amendment to the expert partner scope from the CFE, who has the model for the FEC, to include services for Small Business Boost, where we can expand our services to not only support individuals, families, but now business owners. And I can entertain any questions.
We see a fair amount of slides, I see on this, fair amount of material for this
Yes.
resolution. Is there any of that you want to talk about with us, or no?
I included all of those attachments so that you can see, especially in favor of the new alderman and new administration coming in, where you can see the progression of the initial amendment and then each amendment. So I'm going to be before you again with a fourth amendment to expand the scope to include legacy
Okay.
planning. So it's all standard, and the CFE likes to expand the expert partner scope instead of issuing another grantee.
Is there anything particular you would like to focus on?
No.
No? All right, okay. Alderman Franco, I got a feeling you want a question.
No, all I was gonna say, so moved.
Okay.
Like
My
that.
new favorite line.
Okay, okay. Just for clarity here, we had a provider, the provider's stepping back because they can't provide the service at the level that they agreed to, correct? We're bringing on another provider to finish out the contract.
No.
No?
We're just accepting $90,000. That's Katrina's item. That's the next item
Oh, that's
for the
next item.
cars.
My apologies, okay. I'm a little ahead. Okay, I went to go real quick.
Yeah, I just
saw
want to
go-
accept money. We just want to
Okay,
accept
all
money.
right. All right, my apologies for that.
Second.
There you go. We got a motion by
Perfect.
Alderman Franco, second by Alderman Bug. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, all those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's another memory, right? I remember, Ms. Moss, when I first met you. Life's all about memories, you told me. And making positive memories, so I got another one with you there to add to our list between the two of us. All right, Madam Clerk, would you please read the next item on the agenda?
25-0465, a resolution to approve GoGo Grandparent as the replacement contractor for the City of Aurora Ride Solution, CARS, program through December 31st, 2025, utilizing the remaining budgeted funding not to exceed $100,000.
Good afternoon, Katrina Boatwright, Manager of Senior and Disability Services. So as you can read in my resolution, our current contractor that provides the dispatch service and monitoring services for our CARS transportation program has terminated their call center and operation services due to some federal funding cuts. And so that left us mid-year to make a pivot. I was able to do some research and revisit one of our contractors that provided an RFP at 2023 when we first launched the program, and realized that their cost was still very much more expensive than our current one. And we identified GoGo Grandparent as one that was very comparable to what On The Go was providing. And so I am proposing that we go with them to finish the year, not to exceed our remaining budget. And we'll do a full RFP in the fall to put it back open for 2026.
Question.
I won't talk to you about a $90,000 grant.
I
for
would
sure.
appreciate it.
Okay. Alderman Franco.
So I was just reading here, and is the total budget 100,000 or
That's
is
the remaining budget of this 2025. It's the remaining budget for the 2025 year.
What was our total budget for the year?
250. No, 220, I'm sorry.
Okay, I was reading that, and I wasn't quite sure if that was total or, I mean, I just saw it in there, so that was my only question, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome.
Chairman,
Alderman Barrero.
I have a question.
Hmm?
So what is the funding source for this? Where does it come out of? What budget? Or what
It's
fund?
general funding.
Comes out of the general fund? Okay,
Well, I
thank
say
you.
we have a split. It's some general and some gaming, yeah.
That's all I have, thank you.
Okay.
So moved.
I have a
Second.
motion by Alderman Bug. I mean, I'm sorry, a motion by Alderman Franco. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Larson. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Clerk, would you please read the next item on the agenda?
Item 25-0466, an informational presentation on the acceptance of a $2,500 grant award from Petco Love.
Good afternoon. I'm Cameron DeBoer. I'm the Animal Control Manager. I am here to urge you to accept a grant from Petco Love. Some of you might remember me from last year. We got this grant last year as well. The plan is to put this funding towards free microchipping for citizens of Aurora and surrounding communities. Microchipping is a huge asset to individuals, making sure their pets are safe. Last year, with our grant, we were able to place 250 free microchips to the public, as well as give Aurora University a microchip scanner in a cage so that those animals that they find do not have to come to our shelter.
And I'm Randall Stevens, grant writer for the city. Our typical process would normally be to receive a grant award agreement after an award is made, but the Petco program does it a little bit differently, and you kind of agree to the terms ahead of the application submission. So in the future, we'll try to do this presentation ahead of time. So I just wanted to add that note in as well.
Can I ask a question now, or
What was that?
can I ask a question now, or no? Yeah, okay.
Sure.
Great. What's the average cost to microchip?
So we use Datamars microchips. The average microchip costs about $7.
Okay.
So we buy them in bulk. Microchip scanners can go between 500 to 1,000, so that was a large chunk of the money last year.
Okay.
This year we plan, well, last year we mostly did microchipping but just by appointment. This year we want to do some actual events and really try to target certain communities that need it or who are lower income.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so it's not just straight out for microchipping or to get a machine to help out with the microchipping then?
Yeah, no, it's
also, okay.
So, for anyone who's not super familiar with microchips, it's basically like a little grain of rice that goes underneath their skin. When you scan it with a wand, it comes up with a number, and then that company will have all of your information attached to it. They don't give it to the public. They would only provide it to like animal control so that we can contact you, let you know, hey, your pet was found, get it back to you sooner. So it really helps us reunite animals with their owners, and it just keeps them a lot safer.
Have we had to utilize it a fair amount this past year? Or?
Yes. So last year we had a huge spike in stray animals and just intakes in general. We took in over 2,000 animals. This year we're on track to do the same thing.
Are they
Microchips.
microchipped?
Some are, some aren't. So microchipping is the best way to get your animal back. They get it once in their life, and they never have to do it again. It stays there. It never, will lose magnet or anything like that. So if you have your pet microchipped, it is there forever. It will be scanned no matter where it goes to make sure that it goes home to you.
So if we do catch a stray, can we microchip it even if it doesn't have all the information of the owner? At least we have some
Yes.
data for us as well?
Yes, so per state law, whenever we take in an animal, dog or cat, it has to be microchipped before it leaves our shelter. So anything that comes in, we automatically microchip. And then if we do find the owner or we adopt them, then all of that information goes to the new owner.
Okay, fantastic. All right, thank you so much. Any questions for the committee?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Franco, second by Alderman Damborero. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, ladies, for that.
Thank you.
I think we're going to, that's the main agenda is complete. We're going to go to a held item here. We'd love to have,
Alderman, if I may, Patrick Collins, Assistant Corporation Counsel, that last item was for information only, so. didn't
which
vote.
one?
The-
Oh, was it?
Yes,
Oh, well, it has me here asking for a
but it's
vote.
cool, you still approved it, they love that,
Okay.
Animal Care will take
Hey,
it.
who doesn't love animal care,
Yes,
right?
so
Okay.
just for, it's.
All right, information only, Madam Clerk, if you could make a note of that
Yes, sir.
for COW. Okay, well then, we can move forward with the held agenda. Clerk, could you
Item-
please read that item? Thank you.
Item 25-0419, a resolution authorizing the payment of a grant construction payment to VNA Healthcare in the amount of $500,000 to defray the capital costs of the construction of the Weston Ave Primary Care Center.
Thank you. Chris Minnick, Chief Financial Officer for the city. You may recall at the last meeting, we discussed a $500,000 city grant pledge for the VNA Health Clinic. As the committee will recall, VNA Health has constructed and equipped a clinic on the campus of the former Copley Hospital site. The dilapidated buildings and facilities of the former hospital were redeveloped into a mixed-use campus featuring housing for seniors and the developmentally challenged. Additionally, the renovated campus also incorporates a school administration building and a community park. In addition to the amenities described, the developer also leased a portion of the campus to VNA Health for the construction and operation of a health clinic to serve the campus and the surrounding area residents. VNA fills a need by providing quality, affordable health care regardless of a patient's insurance status or ability to pay. Their services are crucial for community well-being for city residents. The Bloomhaven Clinic was envisioned to provide an array of services, including primary care services, mental health counseling, immediate care, women's health, OBGYN, pregnancy care, and pediatrics. The city wished to be supportive of the efforts of VNA to bring quality, affordable health care to the Near East Side, and to that end, the city pledged a grant contribution of $500,000. However, the pledge was not included in the city's 2025 budget, and the council has not approved the disbursement. The item was discussed at length during the last Finance Committee meeting. There were many questions related to the costs of the project, and VNA has provided additional information in that regard through the Alderman's office. Additionally, terms and sources of funding were also discussed. Per the terms of the letter that was enclosed in the packet, the pledged financial support was to be released upon completion of the clinic and issuance of a certificate of occupancy. Those items occurred in April. In the interest of moving forward, the city and VNA have come to agreement that $250,000 will be paid as soon as practical after council approval, and the remaining $250,000 of the city's pledge will be included in the city's 2026 budget and payable prior to June 30th, 2026. The first payment would be made from investment earnings on the casino bond proceeds, and the second payment funding source would be identified as part of the 2026 budget process. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I believe VNA also has a representative present as well.
Chair. 1 second, please. I'm the one that put it on to be held. I requested it to be held. One was, the main reason was, wanted to understand how we got to where we were. Very important. Specifically because we weren't informed. I wasn't informed. Maybe the other 11 council members before, maybe the finance committee before, maybe the chairman before was informed. I wasn't informed. And it's not really the way I wanted to start as chairman, or I want this committee to start with requisitions moving forward, especially with $500,000, without understanding fully not just the scope of what happened, but how we proceed and what our options are to proceed. I my concern was moving forward with, because the recommendation was to use GO bonds. And considering that it wasn't in the budget already, my personal concern is adding additional debt service for this without having talked about the budget and knowing that you are working diligently to work out how our bond structure will look moving into the future.
Correct.
And you're working on that this summer. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the modified proposal on how we move forward. And I do have a question, at least one more question of legal, if we may, real quick. And that is, do we have to consider a waiver of claim or any future claim, payment and satisfaction, moving forward with this agreement and not have another surprise? Because we already have one, Murphy's Law, maybe make sure that doesn't pop up again.
Patrick Collins, Assistant Corporation Counsel. We can, when we finally have an approval, we can put together an agreement, contract, whatever else we need in order to execute the council's.
Because I think it's important for both parties, especially for the VNA also, to have an agreement, a written agreement.
Correct.
That we're going to vote on by the time we get this to the city council level. I mean, I don't think it's going to be held here today, at least not by the chair. But I'd like to have this agreement in writing, at least for COW at the extreme latest city council meeting.
I would recommend that the agreement be made after approval, that in the resolution, the language is the approval, final approval is basically the mayor is authorized to execute the agreement upon, the corporation council and VNA coming to an agreement on those terms, that the money is then allocated, budgeted towards that. The terms of the agreement can be worked out afterwards. So then, until there's final approval, we don't know what the terms will even be. It's hard to craft a document that if there isn't the approval of whether there was the original option of the 500,000, the new option that is today, those terms would all be spelled out in the agreement. Until there's final council approval, it's difficult to have that agreement now that this one is kind of after the fact type of thing. Does that make sense? That the resolution would spell out the exact.
I just want to make sure that we don't have this replicated again. Oh, we have to come back. We had another discussion we're having. How do we make sure that we avoid that? Well, VNA is secure in knowing that they're gonna get what this modified agreement is in terms of reimbursement.
So my recommendation would be that there will be a contract and agreement, everything else that would be done upon final approval by the city council of whatever the agreement will be.
Okay, so then I'll take it one step back. This agreement's going to be in writing for COW and uploaded to the docket. To some basic structure.
We could certainly put together like a terms sheet
There you go.
that could be approved, and then a formal contract could follow that. But we could basically outline a term sheet that shows and describes what we intend to do, and then we can fill in, pardon me, Patrick, but the legalese around it to handle, to make sure it's a binding contract.
I just want you to understand, it's not that I don't trust you, Mr. Minnick. I do trust you, and I'm glad you brought it before us. It's on your desk, and that's why it's on this docket from the past two meetings. My concern is to make sure the VNA understands that we have it down on writing to some degree moving forward, and they can expect that things are going to be moving forward because of how it didn't work out before. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
That may not
Cross our
exclusively-
Ts and dot our Is this time.
That may not exclusively be in the terms agreement, but it will be in the contract agreement. That when this agenda item goes to city council for final approval, the authorizations for what each party will be assigned and what not assigned specifically will be outlined in the resolution. So the city council is authorizing X, Y, and Z. That will then be the terms of that, everything else, will then be executed in a contract between the parties.
Okay, well, I want to make sure everything's documented for the council. That's the key thing.
Yeah.
Whatever,
Yeah.
in some degree, whatever was just mentioned by Mr. Minnick. That's the important part. So before I continue going, and the other thing too is, we don't have to worry, but that's all gonna be worked out. Any claims or concerns gonna come after the fact,
Correct.
after we approve it at city council, potentially.
The-
I'm not making any
Yes,
assumptions at this
correct.
point. I'm only speaking for myself, so that point. All right, so any additional questions? I'm gonna give the opportunity to Alderman Barrero, since he was not able to be here at the last meeting, to ask any additional questions first, if you have any.
Chairman Masiacos, I do have a question. And my question has to do with whether or not the VNA submitted a grant during the 2023 or 2024 grant cycle for this project. I'm just curious as to if that was done, you know, yes or no, and
I will defer to the VNA representative.
No, it was not submitted in that way. It was a discussion with city staff and a discussion of what the money would be used for. And then there was some email correspondence about it and some written documentation that way.
Excuse me 1 second. Could you please state your name for the record
Sorry.
and title?
Yep.
Thank you.
Linnea Wendell, I'm the CEO at VNA Healthcare.
Thank you. For the record. Yeah. Sorry about it.
I was just trying to see if, because, you know, VNA has been a long-time recipient of city grant dollars over the years. And, you know, we have been a funder, so I was just wondering as to, you know, if there was an application for a grant for this project, and, you know, it would have been a good opportunity to use, especially if it was eligible for CDBG, because sometimes it's good to spend dollars on a construction project. So that was my question.
Yeah, we have had funding through CDBG over the years for some different projects, but this was not an application to CDBG.
It just helps to explore all different pots of funds that we have in the city when you do that, as opposed to, in this case, after the fact, you can't now be eligible for a block grant because you started the project before. So
Yeah,
it's
we
good to
can-
get into the cycle or into the pipeline.
Right. We consulted with city staff about our request for support. This was the suggested approach. Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I got.
Alderman Franco.
I might need legal up here again, because I'm kind of confused about where we're going with this. So we're going to take this today, and we're going to, assuming we approve it, it's going to go as it is the COW, as it is the city council. Then you're going to craft a contract based on this, and then who's going to look, I mean, I'm just, this is a little bit different than I've seen before, so I just want to know, so we're going to approve this as is. This wording's not going to change between now and the end of city council, is that what we're talking?
Final approval will not be until city council.
Of exactly what we're seeing here.
No, because
No.
you guys could ask for amendments today. Cal
Correct.
could ask for amendments.
Alderman, I would suggest that if the terms that I outlined in the intro are acceptable to the committee, that we would make those changes and reflect those changes in the Legistar item to come forward to committee as a whole.
So your verbiage is going to be incorporated between now and COW? Okay, so that's the
Correct.
missing piece I was looking at.
Yeah,
here.
and I intend to put together a term sheet and attach it
Okay,
as
all right.
or a, not a formalized term sheet, but.
All right, so there will be a difference between what we're seeing today. There'll be additional stuff because of what you mentioned to us. If we approve the verbiage the rhetoric that you gave us, then you're going to take that, run with it, put this together, and then we'll see the COW move on. I just want to get those steps correct. I wasn't clear on that exactly. Okay, that makes sense to me. Thank you.
So are we going to make a motion to accept this recommendation Patrick, could you tell us, would you have to accept this,
Which recommendation?
the agreement, the tentative agreement that's
That-
come to between VNA and the city through Mr. Minnick?
I think what would happen is that this legislative item will be amended. What it reads on your paper is completely different.
But do we have to vote on accepting this as a motion to amend?
Yes, I recommend.
All right.
a motion
So
to
I would make a
amend
motion
the-
to accept the amendments based on what Mr. Minnick had said was the agreement between them and VNA. That should incorporate everything going forward for this purpose to move it to COW. Is that correct, the way I just mentioned it?
That is correct.
Okay.
All right. So I have a motion by Alderman Franco. Do I have a second?
Yes.
I have a second by Alderman Barrero. Mr. Larson?
Discussion.
Do you have a question? Alderman Larson?
Yeah, I guess, just to clarify with what you said, make sure I heard that right. Originally, this was gonna come out of the 2025B Geo Bond Fund, so now we're doing the first 250,000, or the proposal is to do the first 250,000 from the gaming fund, and then the second 250,000 would be something in next year's budget, correct?
Yeah, we actually have some interest earnings on the casino bonds, as we're still holding them. We've not made any formal disbursements, authorized any formal disbursements to Penn Gaming, so we're still earning some interest on that money. We'll take and allocate that money, probably through the gaming fund, to be able to make the first $250,000 installment. Then the second $250,000 installment will be identified and voted on as part of the budget process.
Okay, and I guess the other question, if we do this $250,000 payment out of the gaming fund, would there likely be more left over? I'm just thinking about the bond issue that we just did. If we're now taking this out of the, we're no longer going to be spending this money on the 2025B Geo bond. Is there a possibility to maybe take the remaining $250,000 that we're waiting until next year to pay and use that towards the debt service of the bond we just took out and lower that property tax levy?
That is always a possibility, that we could take a look at that and see what the best application for that would be.
Okay.
Alderman Bug, did you have
Thank
anything
you.
to add?
Yes.
Or share?
Thank you. Yeah, I have a number of questions. First, for staff, I see Casey's there.
Hello, Alderman. Castillo Casey Cuevas, Deputy Mayor.
Yes. And I assume you're there because the chief of staff is not?
Correct.
Okay. So there was correspondence to the Finance Committee. However, that correspondence was not uploaded into our Legistar. In other words, the other 7 council members will not be able to see that correspondence. So we would need that. They'll go into COW blind.
We can,
sure, we will
we
make
can make
sure-
sure that that's attached to Legistar, Alderman Bug.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right. So now I want to discuss the information that we received. So to quickly paraphrase, there was discussions between the former mayor's office and VNA. And eventually, it was stated that this matter would come before city council in the late summer, early fall of 2024. That's what the email said from the former chief of staff. So I'm trying to understand a couple of things. Of course, that did not happen, but even if it didn't happen, there would have been a discussion going into the budget season in October, November, December. But that did not happen. So the first thing I'm asking is, how did those emails and our commitment for the $500,000 be put in writing, but it did not get to the point where it got considered in the budget?
Well, at that point in the budget,
Alderman Bug, Corporation Counsel, I don't know if anyone here actually has that answer, outside of speculating on what the emails that we have and the information that we're trying to find. It's here now. Whether it was supposed to have been brought in last September, as it said, or if it should have been brought up in finance, the matter is up here now. And
okay, no, I understand the matter's here now. I hope we want to learn from our mistakes and not recreate them in the future. So, if there was some process for the mayor's office to alert or to put a memo to the finance department that this needs to be discussed at a certain time, if there was some tracking of that, maybe something we need to put in place, we need to discuss it.
Is there, in line with what Alderman Bug is asking, do we have a checks and balances process already in place or no? I mean, I would say yes, right? That's why we have a legal department.
every department has their own checks and balances systems. Every department has their own policies, procedures, how they follow things. I think that a conversation on this point is moot regarding this item that is before us. If the mayor's office wants to install or set up some kind of checks and balance process for who they inform, when they inform any alderman or any committee regarding things that they're proceeding on, that would be up to the mayor's office and their agenda and how they want to proceed. But in terms of this item, I don't think this conversation is relevant to a process the mayor's office at the time did or did not have.
So this is a topic for RAP.
Potentially, I don't even know if it's a topic for RAP, because I don't think it's up to RAP to dictate to the mayor's office how they run their office. Their city policies.
It's not about dictating. It's about how he brought up process, and I would think that the residents expect a certain level of checks and balances.
That's what the committee is for. These things get brought to committee. This one didn't. But the item that is before us is not how the mayor's office did or did not get this here. That can be addressed within the mayor's office, as that is their prerogative on how they decide to bring things or not bring things. Some things come to the committee, some
Well, I
things
wouldn't want to say that
that's.
that's, I would disagree with you there in terms of dictate. I don't think anybody's trying to dictate anything to anybody, but I think the RAP committee has the opportunity to look at our processes that we work here in the city and provide a recommendation to the city council, perhaps, if they want to make sure something like this doesn't happen again. We don't have these oops. We have a pledge or a commitment, and it shows up a year later, and it's not in the budget. And it's not, I mean, I had to take a double take when I saw this agenda item. I thought it was $50,000. And I'm like, let me get my glasses. And I'm like, wait, I'm wearing my glasses, and I'm counting the zeros before the dot. $500,000 is a big deal. And I remember when I first started, I should say I first was on the finance committee, 8 years ago, right off the bat with Alex Alexandra, 2 requisitions. Okay, 5,000 over, 7,000 over. There's a transition, didn't have time to stop, and just ask for permission, had to keep the city rolling. This is $500,000. It's a big deal. And I understand where Alderman Bug is coming from. But Alderman Bug, I would say if you're on the RAP committee, I think that's more appropriate to some degree. I understand. I agree with our legal counsel. Maybe that comes in regards to this resolution. You keep it at that committee, come up with any recommendations if need be, in terms of processes and making sure something like this doesn't happen again. So, if that's okay.
Excellent. I will continue.
Yes. With that said, we need to take a motion on the, I'm sorry, we need to take a vote on the motion to amend.
Oh, I wasn't done.
Oh, I'm sorry, my apologies. Keep going, I guess.
Oh,
What's
thank
your next question?
Regarding the same emails to the VNA, anyway, the screen isn't switching. It's okay. So the conversation was put into email form. Who were the initial conversations? Who were the participants in the initial conversations, and where did that take place?
The conversations were all with Alex Alexandru.
And who from the VNA?
And myself.
Okay. And where did that take place?
In the third floor offices.
Okay. So the initial conversations took place in the mayor's office?
Yes, in the conference room.
Okay. So just general, I'm trying to understand. So you were called to the third floor for a meeting, or you requested a meeting? I don't understand.
No, there have been some different meetings over time about our involvement in potentially leasing space at the former Copley Hospital site. And yeah, I had provided information about what we intended to provide there, the cost of construction. I did ask for support, and this is, you know, this continued probably a couple times. We had that conversation, and he said that he thought that they could provide that level of support. There was then email communication. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. And I appreciate you providing the information that Mr. Chairman Masiaco requested, and the information was complete and detailed. So a kind of a follow-up to my question last meeting, and to piggyback on what Alderman Guerrero said. The VNA has been through the process many times. The information coming back from the mayor's office was that this was going to go through council in the summer of 2024. When that didn't happen, what was your feeling or response when you did not hear that it went through council?
I didn't hear one way or the other.
Okay. So you were kind of waiting to hear back from the mayor's office?
Not about that specifically. No, I understood that there was commitment to the project, and the arrangement was that at the time that we obtained the certificate of occupancy, we would request reimbursement. We talked about a couple of different ways to do that, and I suggested that that might have been, that would be the simplest approach for everyone.
Okay. And yeah, those things will happen after council approval. That's stated in the email, after council approval.
Yes, he put in the email that he would take it to council. Yes.
Right.
Yep.
In the summer of 2024. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for answering that question. So with this, the motion and I guess I want to ask finance, and the VNA to elicit. What if we held this payment, or kind of held the item, and put the full $500,000 into the budget discussion for 2026?
That is a possibility. That's something that could be done. You would have to vote on the motion that's currently on the floor before you could amend the motion. You can't amend the motion to amend the motion to amend the motion, so.
Right, I don't know, that's why I wanted to ask, sorry, if I didn't address Mr. Minnick directly.
Well, that could be done. I would indicate, we did have a pledge and in the letter. So I would, also think that we would like to get get some approval or some agreement from VNA as well. But I do believe that the arrangement or the kind of the middle of the road that we've found right now is a good solution to moving forward. It gets them some of the pledged city support fairly quickly, and then we can handle the other remainder during the second quarter of 2026.
Yeah, Alderman Bug, my thought, like I said earlier, was to make sure that we're not adding additional debt service regardless of the amount moving forward with this $500,000 pledge. And that's why I think Mr. Minnick has come up with a very equitable option that's been agreed to by VNA. Whether we pay for $250,000 today, or we pay $500,000 and try to figure out in the budget, I think staff's going to hurt here. Our city staff's going to hurt. Some department's going to hurt not having an extra $250,000 regardless, or $500,000, but to utilize for services here for the city. But the services inadvertently are coming through the VNA, as it was brought up 2 weeks ago. So that's how we came up. That's how I think Mr. Minnick came up with it. We'll tell you that that was my recommendation too, to come up with a solution, primarily for not providing additional burden on the taxpayer, but the burden on our staff is there regardless at this point.
I got a question. What would be the benefit if we put this $500,000 in the budget and paid it next year, as opposed to what you just proposed now? Is there a benefit to that or not?
Other than delaying payment of
So
few to several months?
so we're not. This is not a good thing for the city necessarily. What you proposed here is adequate for us. No detriment compared to going a different direction. Push.
I think they're pretty equal solutions.
So at this point, let's take a vote on this amendment to the resolution. Madam Clerk, would you please take a roll call on that?
Chairperson Ted Masiacos?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carl Franco?
Yes.
Alderman Dan Barreiro?
Yes.
Alderman at Large Keith Larson?
Yes.
Alderman Edward J. Bug?
No.
Okay.
4 yes, 1 no.
4 yes, 1 no. The amendment passes. So do I have a motion to approve the resolution as amended by the committee?
We just did the amendment.
Just amendment.
I make a motion, we approve the resolution as amended.
Motion to approve by Alderman Carl Franco to approve the resolution as amended.
Second.
Second by Alderman Dan Barreiro. Could you please put it to a roll call vote, Madam Clerk?
Chairperson Masiacos?
Yes.
Vice Chair Franco?
Yes.
Alderman Barreiro?
Yes.
Alderman at Large Larson?
Yes.
Alderman Bug?
No.
4 yes, 1 no.
4 yes, 1 no. Resolution passes as amended. All right. Thank you very much for coming in again. Like I said last week or 2 weeks ago, this is a very uncomfortable conversation because we were put in an uncomfortable position. And just as much as it's for you, it is for us. So I appreciate your understanding and your patience, not just for you, but also your board as well. And I guess we're going to have probably some more discussion when it comes to the committee of the whole. So, Mr. Minnick, thank you so much as well for your time and understanding with this topic. I know you've been very, very busy in the background with this over the past 2 weeks because of my request, and also respected by this committee to hold it for 2 more for discussion today. So with that said,
Motion to adjourn.
all right, no
Second.
further business to come before the Finance Committee. I have a motion to adjourn by Alderman Franco, second by Alderman Dan Barrero. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. The meeting is adjourned at 4:28. Thank you very much, one and all.